Okay, perfect. So I guess for people online who couldn't hear me earlier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first show everybody who Costar is a company, and then I will spend the rest of today's meeting on the Costar platform itself, showing everybody how other brokers use the system. So commercial real estate professionals spend about 40% of their time researching, collecting information, analyzing data. And I'm sure the same is true in residential. You can relate how much time is spent looking at listings and just gathering information before even talking to a client. And the question is that, is there a better way, a better utilization of your time? So the answer is, of course, with the Costar platform. We are the most comprehensive commercial real estate data provider in the industry. We have been around for 35 years. Actually, just last year, we made the S&P 500, something that we're very proud of. During that 35 years, we have reinvested $3 billion in research technology, 5,400 employees worldwide, and almost 200,000 active users per month. Now, to give everybody a little bit more information on the Canadian side, because everybody here, of course, does deals in Canada, we have about 8 to 10 years of experience in Canada, and we have 100 employees in the Costar Toronto office where I reside. So looking at some of the brands within the Costar platform, these are some of the companies that we own or we operate. So you can see there's LoopNet, Apartments.com, STR. I guess another quick show of hands, has anybody seen or used these other platforms before? Yeah? LoopNet, Apartments.com? Yeah. So LoopNet is the marketplace for commercial real estate, and Apartments.com is a B2C product that we have that just launched in Canada earlier this year, actually. So essentially, all of these different brands, they do something a little bit differently. But the benefit of having all of these brands under the same company is that the information from all of these different brands flows automatically back into the Costar platform. So I'll give you an example using Apartments.com. Apartments.com is a marketing platform for owners or property managers of apartment buildings. We work with the largest owners across the entire country. And the benefit there for the users of Costar, so if you have access, you can see the asking rent of different condo apartment units across the city, and you can see their vacancy rate as well. So let's say if you're doing a deal, you're trying to buy or sell an apartment property for your client, then this information will be very valuable when you're, creating either your broker package or you're negotiating with a potential buyer, anything along those lines. Going into research a little bit, how do we get all the information we have that I'm mentioning, right? The 4,000 researchers is our core of our business, right? We have 1,750 that's dedicated research consultants. And then we have, in addition to that, we have software developers, economists, analysts. That makes an entire team of, I think, just near 4,000 people that work actively on the Costar software. We also have the best technology available in the industry. So we have an airplane that actually flies over each market. We try to hit each market about once every year or 2 years. And what this plane does is that it tracks construction information over the entire city, right? We have people out in the field operating drones and vehicles to capture visual information for the product. You can see this is kind of an example of the Canadian research team. So these little pictures are actually people that work in my office right now. We have 80 researchers that's based in Canada and focus only on Canadian markets. They're tracking just under 300,000 properties across Canada as a whole. And then we have listings as well, and we update our listings once every 30 days. Some more information. So in addition to all our researchers, we also get third-party data feeds. Now, this is probably a pretty familiar couple of logos on screen for a lot of you. I'm sure agents such as yourselves, you have access to Jira Warehouse. Do you have Terranet as well, or no? Yeah, yeah. So essentially, we get information from different third-party data providers uh, in Canada. And the goal here is that we want to create a complete platform, like a one-stop shop for our clients. So the information you see from all of these different data sources flow automatically into the Costar platform. So, Geo Warehouse, Terranet, Impact, these are kind of self-explanatory. We also have information from companies such as Oxford Economics for economics data to help predictions. We also have Newstar for demographic data. So this way, you can provide a complete package to your clients when you're looking to do a deal. Some examples of the type of clients we have. So we work with essentially every vertical within the industry. So on the bottom left here, not sure how clear it is for the people in the back, but we have brokers on the bottom left. So this is probably the biggest chunk of our clients. The 35 years ago, when this was first developed, this is really a tool that was designed for brokers, right? But as time went on, the information we have, we really grew a database and we also grew our clients. So for example, right now, there's a lot of owners and developers that's using Costar. Over here, we have lenders on the top right, and then going over here, appraisers. We have a lot of government entities. I mean, MPAC, for example, we subscribe to MPAC for their public assessment information, but MPAC also have 80 appraisers that's right now using Costar to do their work. On the bottom here, even people like McDonald's, Starbucks, Walmart, they all use Costar for their commercial real estate departments. To give you an overall just high level view of the different tools that you can use Costar for, is that we track the most properties and listings compared to anybody else. So this way that if you are advising a client, let's say you have a buyer who wants to buy a small retail store, or you have somebody that wants to invest in like an 8-unit apartment building, like we have the information in the platform. Or on the other side, if you're doing leasing, we can help you find tenants. Either you find tenants themselves or find listings for your tenants looking for a space. We can also help prospecting. So for example, you can identify property owners to win listings in the future, right? We have comps in terms of we have sale comp and lease comp, and we have market level trends that's good to both inform yourself and your clients. So that is a high level overview of the company. I want to spend the rest of today's meeting on the platform itself to actually show you the information I'm speaking to right now. But before I jump in there though, is there anybody that have any questions based on the company itself? Good. Okay. All right. So give me 1 second to pull up the Costar platform. Oh. So what we have here, this is the homepage of Costar. So the homepage of Costar is our news section. And all the news we have in the system is curated by our internal team of journalist staff. So what that means is that all the articles you see on Costar is only available to Costar members. It's not available on any other news site. And we also don't take news articles from other websites to post onto Costar. So this homepage is also customizable. So let's say if you do retail, but you don't do office, you can change it so it only shows you retail related news in Toronto, for example. As we go down, it also breaks down news by different countries, different categories, so you can really focus in on the information that you need. This is also a really good tool to drive engagement to your own personal brand. So what I know is a lot of clients, what they do is that they will share Costar articles on their LinkedIn or on their Facebook, right? And when people get that interest, they have to reach out to you directly to get access to that article. So you have to send them that article because you have access and they're not members, so they do not have access, right? Going to the very bottom, we have Costar contacts. So every single Costar client gets 2 dedicated contacts. The first person is their account manager. So that will be somebody like myself. And it is my responsibility to show all my clients how to use the Costar platform. At Costar, we have very strong support for all our members. So what this means is that we offer unlimited training sessions for all of our clients. Within the first week of somebody getting access to Costar, we book an onboarding session, time permitting, of course. And as time goes on, it can either be a scheduled session, like for example, every month we sit down together, or it could be reactive where, the client or the rep reach out to each other when something new happens. But essentially, you have unlimited support when you actually come to learning how to use the platform. The second person you get access to is a member of our research team. So we're the only company that lets our clients direct access to our researchers. So what this means is that unless you're looking at a property and the zoning information is not there, but you need this for the deal you're working on, right? You can get the zoning information yourself. It's not too difficult. It might take a little bit of time, or all you have to do is send an email to our research team. They get the email, and then they will add that zoning on your behalf, right? So there's two parts to Costar. The first part is that we're helping you get the deals you otherwise wouldn't get. And number two is that we're helping save time, and time translates into more deals, translates into more commissions. And of course, we have a customer support line as well. You get an error, you can't log in. This team works Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. Okay. So going all the way on top, what I want to do is I want to speak to each of these modules that we have. So everybody has an understanding of the things we offer. And then I will show probably 2 to 3 of them, depending on how deep we want to get. So the first module we have is a properties module. This is probably the most popular section of the platform that people uses. And this tracks all the properties that we have information on. Again, that is 270,000 properties in Canada. And I think it's 8 million properties worldwide we have information on. The second tab is leasing. So in the leasing tab, we have information on active for lease listings and lease comparables. The third one is sales, and that is our active for sale listings and sale comparables. Funds is private equity funds, how much dry powder they have and what kind of assets they're investing in. Tenants is our tenant database. So we're tracking where tenants are within the city. We're tracking what kind of space they're taking up and how much space they're taking up. Professionals are professional directory, and markets is a high-level overview of the marketplace. So where I want to start first is actually the markets tab. So this is a high-level overview to help anybody understand a particular market and how it's performing. Now, I guess, of the team here, what kind of deals are we looking to target in the commercial real estate world? Are we looking at retail? Are we looking at industrial? Like, what are we thinking here?
All mixed.
Mixed? So essentially,
Mostly like looking for plazas.
Plaza, sorry, what was that?
Retail.
Retail? Okay, so what we can do here is that, so right now we're in the office section. Let's change that into the retail, right? And you can see we also track industrial, multifamily, that's a student, and hospitality. So if you do hotels, you want to do, apartment buildings, all of that information is available for today. Let's use retail for today's examples, right? And every single dot here is a different market, a different city we have the information on. I'm gonna go ahead and select Toronto here. GTA. So you can see in Toronto, we are tracking GTA as a whole. So this is where I'm gonna guess most people will work. But we also have outside of Toronto information as well if we ever need to venture outside. So today, let's use GTA as our example here. So clicking into the Toronto market report, right away on top, you get all the KPIs and the health of the entire city and also this asset class. So what you'll see is that Costar, we're tracking 304 million square feet of inventory. So that means we have the information on 300 million square feet of inventory just within the GTA region. We're also tracking 3 million square feet that's currently under construction in GTA. We also track 1.2 million square feet of absorption. So what this means is that 1.2 million square feet of space was taking up more this year than it was last year. So people are moving in, new stores are opening. Our vacancy rate is only at 1.5%. That's very low compared to most of the markets in North America. And the asking rent per square feet in the GTA is about $34, $35. Now, this number, of course, is an average across the whole market. You have to really look at each building case by case when you're doing your deals. We also have a market sale price of $541 per square foot. The market cap rate is 4.5%, which is a little bit low compared to today's interest, but it's still acceptable, I guess, compared to like a lot of other asset classes. So for example, multifamily's cap rate right now is only, I think, 3.4% in Toronto, which is absolutely crazy. What you get is a written summary of the Toronto retail market. And this is written by our economists and analysts. So this is not automatically generated. This person actually reviews the information that we have, reviews the economy, and then input the information in here to help you and your clients understand the market. So I'm going to go down a little bit, skip a couple of the charts. What I want to show you is some of the information that we do have, right? So for example, we're tracking absorption, deliveries, and vacancy here. So you can see a historical trend of how the city is performing on the retail level and what our forecast is going to be moving forward. So this is information that you can share with your clients to demonstrate your market knowledge. Going down a little bit more, we can also look at rent. We can show what is the historical asking rent per square foot in the city. And we can also see what the rent growth is. So rent had a great growth over the last, since COVID ended, last 2 years or so, peaking at about 5.8% annual growth year on year. But we do forecast in 2024, we're not going to see much rent growth. Coming down even more, we have construction information as well. We're tracking when construction is starting. So you can see there was a good amount of construction in Toronto, historically speaking, really peaked after COVID because interest was cheap and then money was cheap. Everybody wanted to build everything. But you can see in 2023, there have been barely any new constructions for the retail space. Going down more, have sales information as well. You do have sale price, but sale volume is a good indicator as well. So you can see in 2021, again, a lot of sales happening, over $1 billion of sales in Q3 and Q4 of 2021. But again, 2023, we see a gradual but pretty substantial drop in total sales volume of retail spaces. I wanted to show you is that everything in this report is exportable. So again, part of this is to show your expertise in the market. You can click on this button right here and download this entire report as a PDF, or you can click on the data button here and download the entire report as an Excel. However you like to work and whatever preference your client have, you can provide. Now, when we look at the Toronto market, it was pretty big, right? It was like, it included Richmond Hill. It goes all the way to, I think, Hamilton. What we can also do here is we can break it down by the sub-market level. So let's say somebody looking for a retail plaza in Scarborough. Now, they don't really care about what's happening in, Milton or what's happening in Vaughan, right? So we can actually go here, can go Scarborough, East Toronto, for example. And now we're looking at only information in the Scarborough region for the retail asset class. So you can see where this is only 38.7 million square feet, 100,000 under construction. There was negative net absorptions. That means that there's actually retailers leaving Scarborough compared to other areas of the city. Vacancy rate is 2.1%. This is also higher than our GTA average. And asking rent is lower than GTA. I think GTA was 46, something like that. So this is quite a bit lower as well. So again, I'm not going to go through the entire thing the second time because it's just the same information with different numbers. But essentially, you can compare each area of Toronto So for example, you have a buyer looking to invest, you can advise them on the best area to invest in, like where does it make most sense for you when it comes to absorption, vacancy, market rent, and sale price. Okay. What does everybody think of the market tab? Any thoughts, comments? Shout them out. Okay. So that is a markets tab. And this is kind of a good understanding of the level of information we have and how much we track. So the next thing I want to show is more of a day-to-day use case scenario. So what I want to do is I want to do two things. First is that I want to pretend like you have a client, they're looking for a retail space to lease. You know, they want to open a store, maybe it's 2,000 square feet. How do you find that space using Costar? And number two is that I want to find a prospecting tool using, you don't have a client right now, but maybe you want to win a listing. Well, how would you use Costar to do that? So these are two examples I'm going to try to do, and this will be in the properties tab of the Costar platform. So in the properties tab, once it loads, you're going to see a lot of information. So what I'll do first is let me break it down a little bit, just so there's a good understanding. On the map itself, what you'll see is that there's two different color pins. The first is blue pins. So first of all, every pin on the map represents a building that we are currently tracking information on. The blue pins is a building with an active listing. So that listing could be for sale or for lease. The gray pins is standing inventory. So that means that building is not being marketed for anything. However, we're still tracking information on it. And this is the gray pins is where it plays in if you want to talk to either an owner to see if you can win their listing, or if you have a buyer, you want to do something off market, the gray pins is where it really comes in. That's going to help. And we're the only company in the industry that tracks standing inventory to this extent. So on the top right, you can see we're in Toronto right now, at least part of Toronto. In the top right, it says 24,109 properties. So that means in just one area here, we have over 24,000 properties that we have information on. As we move around, what you'll see is that this number is going to change and the map is going to update based on where we are looking at. Now, Costar has a lot of powerful tools that's going to help you pinpoint the exact type of property that you're looking for, right? So for example, what I'll do is I'm going to go over to the Scarborough area. Now I'm going to say, okay, I have a client looking to open a store in Scarborough, right? What I can do is there's a number of different tools that I can use to pinpoint an area on a map. So the first one is polygon. So what this means that I can draw a shape, any shape I like on the map. So let's say this is where my client would like their store. So now instead of looking at the whole city, we have a very specific section of the city that we are focusing on. Or we can do something a little bit simpler. We can draw a radius. Maybe this is where my client's home is, and then he would like something, within a 2-kilometer radius of where he lives. Same thing with travel. Travel is actually pretty interesting. We can do corridor as well. So let's say the client, they want something along Kennedy. They don't want to open a store outside of Kennedy. So what we can do is Kennedy, I think it's this one, I hope. We can draw a single line here. It's like, okay, only show me buildings on one single street, right? Or what we can do is we can go to travel. Here's like, what's the address here? 1286 Kennedy Road. These are Brampton. There we go. Okay. So let's say I want something within a 30-minute drive of a particular location. So this way, my client, he doesn't want to spend 2 hours traveling to work every day. He wants to spend 20, 30 minutes traveling to work. So now, using the travel tool, once it loads properly, you're going to see all the buildings that's within a 30-minute drive of that particular location. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, that'll work this time. So now we can see, okay, all of these buildings are ones that's within a 30-minute drive of this particular address, right? And our map system is powered by Google, so it's all very intuitive and easy to use, so you don't have to really worry about getting a hang of it. What I'll do next is that, in our example here, let's say, okay, they're looking for a lease, they're looking for a retail space, and then let's say they want between, 800 and 2,500 square feet. Not something too big, but something with enough space to do what that client wants. And look, now we have, okay, 68 properties with 126 spaces. So that's below on the top right to show you where it says that. Okay. And these are all the buildings that's currently marketing spaces for these, specifically retail spaces. Right. So what we can do here is that, excuse me, we can go through each of these, or we can put in even more filters. So Costar has something around 200 filters. We're not going through all of it, but I want to show you the power that they have, right? So first filter I can do is existing buildings. So a lot of buildings, when they're under construction, they do pre-lease. So let's say our clients want to move in right away. They don't want to wait a year when the building's being built. So we want to look for existing building, right? Maybe as we go down in the building section, we want maybe something that's built a little bit more recently. We don't want something too old. Maybe something that's built, after the year 2000. Okay, so now we got rid of, maybe that was too much. Maybe 1990. So many things were so old here. We'll keep 1990 for now. And what else we can do is we can even go for something along the lines of, okay, my client, they want ground floor retail. They don't want to be on the third floor of a building where nobody can find them. So what we can do is we can even check to see, okay, maximum floor, I don't want it to be higher than the first floor. Click. Okay, so now, when we're looking at the city, when we first started at Toronto, 24,000 results. That's how much information Costar has. And then we went to Scarborough, and then we picked 40 spaces, and then we picked retail. We still had hundreds of spaces. But now we put in all of our very specific parameters, and suddenly we have 15 properties, 26 spaces. But these are 15 properties that's a very specific and very good targets for our client, right? So now we can look through it one by one. What I'll do is, looking at this one, for example, 621 Shepherd, we are now in what we call the property card in the Costar platform. So all the buildings you see will have a similar card to this. So the information we have on the building, we can see on the screen is that first, of course, we have the size of the building. We have the site the lot is sitting on. And this is really useful information for plazas, right? Because people buy plazas throughout in the future. Bigger the parcel, better it is the investment. We know when the building is built. We know how much space is available. And we know what is the asking rent, right? Going down a little bit, you can see that, okay, there was a condo sale in here, a commercial condo. It doesn't say what year it was, but it looks like it was worth $3.3 million. You have more information on the building itself here. So what you'll see is that, okay, this is a 2-story building. And it was built in 2020. There's 45 parking spaces. As we go down, land information, we have the zoning is a commercial zoning. Go down even more, we have a little bit of information. You can see that F45, I'm not too sure what that is. It's what is one of the tenants, and their lease expires in 2032. Now, knowing this information, like, what does everybody think? So this is a really powerful piece of information when it's available. So lease expiry is a very close kept secret in the industry. Now, we're not going to have every lease expiry for every tenant, but when we do have it, that in 2031, this client will be renegotiating their lease, or they will be looking for a new space, right? So as a broker, this is a very good call to make in 2031. Now, that's a little bit far away. So of course, when we're doing the prospecting, we're gonna be looking for people that's gonna be, 2025 renew, 2024 renew. But this is the very good prospecting tool that we have in the system. Going down a little bit more, you can see we have information on public transportation. And let's go to the right-hand side. You can see you have information on the lease as well. This is the spaces that's currently available for lease, and go down a little bit more. Highlights, leasing activity. So you can see what leases were executed. So looks like this is a pretty new building. So a lot of the leases are fairly recent because they're just leasing out their building now. The market conditions of this type of assets. And as we go down, we have demographic information as well. So especially if you're doing a retail plaza for reinvestment, demographic is a really good and powerful piece of tool to have. We have traffic information as well. So what are the closest major intersections? So what we can do here is that let's go into Spaces tab here. So in the Spaces tab, you'll see, okay, first is that how many spaces fit our specific criteria. So all of the 5, 6 filters that we put in, this space fits all of them. So this is a, the size fits, this is a ground floor retail location. You can click into it and now you have the information, right? You can see it's asking 49 a square foot, and that's about $9,000 per month. And on the bottom, let's say you look at this space, you look at this building, you look at this cost, really good fit for your client. This is where you have the leasing contact right in the system. You can call them directly, you can email them, contact them however you need to get this deal across the finish line, right? One thing that is useful for a lot of our clients is that 2 parts of it. So first, you can see this is actually updating November 1st. So this is actually a little bit ago since this was updated. Normally, what happens is that our research team will call the broker every single month for an update. But sometimes if they don't update themselves and they don't respond, then we do not touch this listing. But however, you can still call the broker directly. But what you can see here is that this has been listed for 13 months and 26 days. So this has been on the market for quite a while, right? So 2 parts to this. The first is that you have a client, you can say, okay, I can probably negotiate a little bit lower than their asking rent because this has been sitting empty for a year. The second part is that if you want to be a little bit sneaky, you can actually call the landlord directly and see either you can get a better deal for your client, or even maybe say, hey, like, how you're finding your current brokers, like, are they working hard for you? Maybe you want to give me a try. So this way you can win the listing from a different brokerage. No.
These leasing contacts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they're the listing brokers, or is it buildings representative, like property managers or something like that? Deal with the contract.
It would depend on the building. So in this case, Castle Group Development. Oh, so this is actually a good example. So Castle Group Development looks like they actually own the building, right? So they're doing the leasing themselves. So this is actually a great phone call for you to make to see if you can win this listing. But to answer your question, some of these leasing contacts will be a brokerage or an agent, but some owners do the leasing themselves or use their property management company. So it is a case by case. The leasing contact is essentially the best person to reach out to for this particular space.
Then, so how do we know whether this property is listed in MLS? How you guys are different from MLS? I know if you are a data providing company, but is there any way that we can find out what is the commission they are giving and then whether it's listed in MLS?
So we're not connected to MLS in terms of listing. So this listing may be on MLS, but it also may not be. It just depends on whether or not the broker and the owner wanted to put on MLS versus Costar. And in terms of commissions, that's something you have to speak to your, well, I mean, if you're talking about commissions, generally speaking, you get commissions from the tenant. Or do you get commissions from the landlord? Okay, yeah, so you have to talk to the landlord. It's usually like $1 a square foot, but like you have to talk to the landlord to find out. Now, so here what I did was I came out of the space tab itself, and I came to the contacts tab on the right hand side here, and this is the contacts itself. So you can see it looks like there's a primary leasing company. So this is the actual people representing the landlords, but there's also a leasing company and a sale company. So this is somebody that could be, if there's a sublease in the same building, there could be multiple people representing different spaces. right? So what we will do is that essentially, this is the first option we have. We can go to the next one. And then we can see, okay, now this is the second building we have, right? So this is primarily, you can see, okay, similar information. This is a 2,000 square foot building. It's just we will do is that we will just find out all of the spaces that fit our client's criteria, right? And then once we do, what we can do is you can see First Capital is this particular building. Come back out here. And what we can do is, okay, let's say, the first building, the second building, the third building. These are three really good choices for my clients, right? What we can do is there's two ways to export the information out of Costar to provide that to your client. So what you do is that you click on the reports button, and then you'll see, okay, so I can do a space availability report. So space availability report is going to happen is that we're going to be able to provide all this information. Hit next, generate. And this report is the information that we just saw in the platform itself, we can have it in a PDF format to either print or email to anybody of our choice. Could be your partner, could be the people you're working with. And maybe it's a little bit bigger. There we go. So you can see all the spaces available, whether rent is. Sometimes the rent is withheld, but we do see people like to list the rents most of the time. Picture of the building itself, where it is. And on the bottom here, what we have is that you can see here, it says Costar Group. If you're generating this report yourself, this is actually going to say Remax Ace. So it's going to be your own branding on the report. And in the middle here, you have an option to put your own name, your own email address, phone number. So essentially, this is going to be branded as if it's coming from you and not Costar.
So I have a question, go back to the searching point, how you searching all these business. So critically, for example, if you want to look for gas station, can you look, you have in this program, you able to type off?
Yes. So right now, we just did kind of like a basic example of like, oh, somebody's looking for a retail space for lease, right?
Right.
What you're looking for is a little bit different. So what we do there is I'm going to clear all the filters I already put in. So this is going to be like a new example. In Costar, the filters, like I mentioned before, we have a lot of them. And one of them is called, in the building section, secondary type. So this is essentially a more specific type of asset, right? So like gas stations, they're retail, but they're a very, very specific type of retail. So what I do here is I type in, so it's technically defined as service station. So we type in service station, hit done. And now we have a list of all the gas stations in this area. So you can see, okay, this is what they all look like. What we can do is let's go to this blue one. See if that one's, so this one's available for lease, for example. So let's say you have a client, they want to open something, but at a gas station, right? Convenience store, Harvey's, whatever it is. You just went here?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have a client looking for the space?
Yep.
Yeah, so you can see, okay, this is 17,000 square foot plaza with a service station.
It took me an hour to find in a different way, but this is easy.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Well, that means, yeah, I mean, we try to, again, time saving is a pretty big part of it. So you can see some information. There's some recent activity. So we're actually able to find here, this is pretty interesting, could be useful for your deal right now, is that we can see here in 2018, they were asking for $18 a square foot, and they were renting out for, sorry, they were asking for $20 a square foot in 2018, but they were renting out for $18.60 effective rate plus utility, right?
But is it available for lease now? Right?
Yes, there's one space available for lease right now, 600 square feet by Lincoln, right?
Yep.
So this has been on the market for about, we're looking at, not that long, like fairly reasonable. And what we can also see, let's see if there's any other information we have. We can look at the other tenants. We can look at the owner as well. So well, not every property, but now he's leaving his question.
The context of seller, so he's calling him.
He saw it, it's like, oh, there we go. Now he's gonna leave right now, get a deal done. So most of the properties, commercial real estate, they're not going to be owned like by a person directly. It's going to be by companies, right? So you can see here, technically a number company owns this particular property. But what Costar has, and this is something we're really powerful with that other people don't do. We know that, okay, Mr. Joe actually owns this property, right? And what that means that if ever you need to talk to the owner, which is you want to win a listing, you want to get a deal done off market, there's a lot of reasons to talk to owners. You have somebody that you can reach out to directly, right? Number two thing is that this happens not too often, but like a surprising amount where here in the market is that you will call a broker, you email them, you leave a voicemail, and they just don't get back to you, right? And when that happens, you call the owner, you let them know, hey, I have a client that really wants to rent your space, but your broker's not getting back to me. You're going to bet that person going to call you very, very fast. So this is a really good tool that we have in the system. And we also attach a Costar contact on each property. So we don't guarantee we have all of this information on every property. There's just 8 million property we're tracking across the world. Like it's just too much work. The team is adding new information like this every single day. But as a client, what you could do is that you want to know the show owner for building. If, you know, Mr. Joe's information is not already here, you can request our research team to find this information. Now, we're not 100%, but we have a very high success rate. So for standing inventory, our success rate is probably around 70-80% of finding who the show owner is. And for recent transactions, our success rate is 94%. So there's a good chance we'll find out who owns it, and this way you can actually talk to that person directly.
I have a question.
Yep.
So particular that side, I came like way after you started probably. So there's a worship places or church or non-profitable space for sale. You can find it by naming it like this.
Yes. For sale. So the question is yes and no. The question is yes, there's a way to look at for it. And I think we call it religious institute. Yeah, religious facility we call it. So you can see, okay, oh, we're tracking 400 churches, you know, mosques, whatever it is in this part of Toronto, right? But they go on sale very, very rarely, right? And let me actually show you that in a second, but let me show you one thing here first. What I can do is I hit clear. And what I'll do is I'll go to filters, and this is now we're like in the prospecting mindset, like I want to do more business. How do I get more business? What we could do is go to the for lease section. You can do it for lease or for sale. And then what you can do is you can do days on market, and, you know, 365. And now I have a list of 4 lease listings, which is that. I got too comfortable here. I have a pretty big list of listings that's been on the market for a year, right? What you can do is you can look at it and say, hey, how many of them is a landlord listing themselves? How many if it's a broker that can't get a lease out for a whole year? Now, some of these bigger buildings are always be on the market just because there's going to be turnover. You have 100 units, a unit is going to be empty, right? But a lot of these, you know, you can have a talk track with the owner, say, hey, let me list your listing. Like I will work extra hard for you. And like, you don't pay me unless I get it leased out, right? So there's nothing for you. Like I have Costar, I can, you know, like you can see the information I have, I can help provide for both you and anybody interested. So that's kind of the talk track you have to try to win a listing. So to go back to the questions about the religious institutions, this is actually a different part of the platform. So I'm going to jump out of properties now. I think everybody have a good idea of the information we have here. So let's jump into sales quickly. So in sales, we track commercial real estate transactions across Ontario and also, you know, BC, Quebec, and so on. But we're going to focus on Ontario today. So what we can do is the same filter we just looked at to pull up all the information. We can just only look at, okay, how many of them actually sold in the last 2 years, in the last 3 years, right? So if you look at the secondary type, let's go back to religious institution. You can see, let me zoom out into the GTA a little bit more. And then let me look at the last, let's say, you know, 3 years, right? You can see that there has only been 33 records in 3 years. And that means it's about 10 sales per year. So this is not a very common asset class of trade hands, even though I have heard a lot of pretty strong interest in this type of asset because there's a lot of people looking, right? But what we have is that you can see the ones that did trade hand. Okay, when did it sell? Like when did the deal close? How much did it go for? Where is it? And so on. So Costar will be able to help you somewhat with finding a place for sale, right? Like if you're looking at, office buildings or like multifamily, there's gonna be a lot more listings than churches. But what you could do with churches, you can see what is on sale. I think I saw one on sale for churches, and then the rest of it, maybe you can make a couple phone calls, but really like churches are not looking to move, right? But once you do find a deal you're working on, could be a church, could be anything. What you do is you click into it, and you'll see information on this particular transaction. So this is now, you could be representing buyer, you could be representing a seller, it doesn't matter. This is really powerful information for you. Now you can see this deal closed November 2nd. So what we mean by that is that this is not a deal that's currently under contract. This has closed. You'll see the exact price that it sold for, how much price dollar per square foot is that, size of the building, and when the building was built. On the bottom, you can see this actually was sold by a church. The church owned it. They sold it to a number company, but we're able to identify who actually bought it was Dongdae Gonzala. Right, going down a little bit more, you also have transaction details. So I'm sure everybody's been on Geo Warehouse before. Geo Warehouse, you look at a piece of land, it's sold for $3. You look at another piece of land, it's sold for $5, which is all, BS. When we get a comp that said, okay, this was a $2 transaction, we actually confirmed with the Ministry of Finance, we found out how much taxes they paid, right? You can't hide taxes. And with that, we're able to find out the actual transaction cost of a particular asset. So we actually do that confirmation so that you have the complete view. I had a client, there was a farm that sold, I think, in like way out west, like beside Waterloo. And then he was working on that deal for forever, like for his buyer. So he was offering like $8.59 million for that parcel. And then it sold, and he thought it sold. He didn't know how much it sold for. He came to me, he's like, hey, help me find it. And it sold for $13 million. Yeah, commercial real estate is a big number game. It is absolutely wild. So all of these, what we can do is we can go through it one by one, and we can pick out the comps that's relevant for our clients, right? Like I want to pick out 3 comps, and this is where we're gonna like either you're, let's say, helping your client set a price for their listing, or you're helping a buyer negotiate a price. This is the information you use. So I went to the next one, and this is an interesting piece of information. You can see that this was a church. The church sold it for $7 million, but you can see tagged right away by our research teams that this was sold for land value. And as I go down, you can see Melrose Investment bought this property. So right now, I know this is most likely not going to stay a church. This is going to be a redevelopment area. So information like that's going to help you decide, okay, is this actually comparable to the church I'm going to sell, which is going to stay a church, right? Things like this is going to affect the sale price. Going down a little bit more in the transaction detail. So what our research team gives is that we get a copy of the deed once they transact hands, and we get a copy of the loan document. And on that loan document, sometimes, not always, we have information on the down payment. So you can see that this sale condition was a redevelopment project. The down payment was 40%, $2.8 million. And you can see that CIBC did this financing for the remainder amount. Now, how is that useful? Right now, the biggest reason why we don't see more deals and the market's not hot is because it is hard to get the financing, right? But if you know what banks are giving out loans for a type of asset, and you also know what other people are paying in terms of down payment and how much they're paying for the property, that's going to help you give advice to your client. Hey, who do you need to talk to get this like financing approved? Which lenders do you need to talk to? Right? Everything that we can do to make the deal go through, we'll try. Because like honestly, $7 million deal, that's a nice commission check. Going down a little bit more, you can see in the sources and research section. So we clearly identify, put a little bit more at the very bottom here, how we get the information, right? So for this particular one, we can see we verify through document inspection. So we will always be able to verify through document. We get a copy of every deed and every loan document that passes through. We also, in this case, were able to reach the seller. So that means that we actually talk to the seller to see, hey, like, what did you sell? Was it like actually $7 million? Oh, it was. Like, who did you sell it to? Like, this is where our research team comes in, because like everybody can read a piece of paper, but we make the effort to actually talk to each party involved. Again, sometimes people don't talk to us, but when they do, that information is very valuable. And then on the bottom here, you can see a person that's responsible for this particular column. So if you have a question, right, you can actually reach out to this person and confirm. So some of the questions we have could be along the lines of like, hey, was the land already rezoned before it was sold, for example, right? And that's something that our research team can help you identify. Again, because that is something that will affect the sale price, the transaction price of your particular deal. Okay. Any questions about the sale comps, the listings, like these things in general about Costar? Because I know we're coming up on time, so I do want to be respectful of everybody's time and their day. What does everybody think?
Yeah, I'm looking for, I have a special client, he's looking like a recycling zone in the vacant land. And look how we can go.
Okay, so if you're looking for vacant land, we'd be in the property section. And then the property type would just be land. And what size are you looking for?
Say about less than 5 acres.
Less than 5 acres in Toronto?
Like a Durham.
Sorry?
Durham.
Durham? Durham's over here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I know my areas. So what you can see is that, okay, we have 309 parcels we're tracking in the Durham region.
But the special zoning, no?
The zoning is going to be tough because we have, so what happens is that like we will have zoning for some of these, but we're not going to have zoning for all of these. Like sometimes we have the information on the land, but not the zoning, for example. And if that's the case, like you don't want to miss it. So you have to kind of like, because I have another client that does the same thing, right? Well, not the same thing. What he does is he look for like places to park trucks, basically, like vacant land to park trucks. It was like same idea, but different, like,
That might be an agriculture, vacant land.
yeah. Well, no, trucks is, I think that he needs a special industrial zoning to do that.
So for example, see, are you able to see zoning, right? If you type of C1 zoning, it'll pop up somewhere.
So, and that's what I'm trying to say, like you will, but it might be CR. Yeah, so you can see some CR zoning, but basically we don't have zoning for every part of land. Let me show you if I can.
It's like a M1, M2 is normally it goes like a commercial, industrial,
Yeah.
recycling, all covered.
So well, this one's RRH. I don't know exactly what RRH means, but like, first of all, there's a lot of zoning. And sometimes if we don't have the zoning and you put in the filter, it just doesn't show up, but it still could be the correct one. So what you do first is like you put the zoning, like let's say you're looking for RRH, you put in RRH, and then all the RRH properties show up, right? But then if that's not like what you're targeting, then that's when you will like go through it one by one to kind of see if you can identify a correct one, because we did up to 5 acres. We can also do a minimum of probably like 2-3 acres, right?
Yeah, for 3 acres.
Yeah, so let's say we do a minimum of 5 to 3. So now there's only 62 pieces of land. So this is like, like this list you'll be able to do yourself, right? And some of these, you can see that there's clearly a building on it, but it's zoned as land is because these are very likely identified as redevelopment projects. They're getting a rezone or whatever. But then a lot of this you can see is going to be vacant land. Like this one's industrial vacant land, for example. And I don't see any for sale right now on the map. So that means what you do is you go in here, you find out who owns it, you call the owner directly. What we can also do is, let me see if this works. This depends on the area. So we have it for some areas, but not all of it. If you go to layers, you go to parcels. Okay, we don't have it for, I think this is Pickering, But in some, it depends on the municipality. We might have parcel, like parcel borders. So let's go to, I think Scarborough,
Ajax is good.
sorry?
Close, Pickering Ajax is good.
So here, like, so we can see the parcel information in Scarborough. For example,
That price is down.
Sorry, it's- right.
7 million, 1,000.
so you can see parcel information. So let's say if this is a parcel we're interested in, if there's no CoStar information here, we can also do, so you can look at the aerial view. So this looks like, I would say this is probably a commercial building, but let me take away the land filter, so that's clearing out a piece of land. Well, let's say you look at the parcel, okay, so let's say if this pin's not here, like this is a building or this is a piece of land, but there's no pin. What you can do is you can actually like give this information to our research team for them to add it. Right, so the research team is really a big part of like our service and big part of why a lot of clients like CoStar is because for most, like, you know, for everything, like for like, you know, like Netflix, YouTube, whatever, like you have a problem, what do? Nothing. You just kind of, it either works or it doesn't work, right? But for CoStar, let's say this building, either it's not here in CoStar, or let's say you need more information. The information maybe is out of date, maybe from 5 years ago, you need to update it. There's a person you can reach out to for that to happen.
Is there any way we can find the sports complex?
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, there's actually a sports entertainment like subsection here, so you can click on that. I don't know, like, I'm going back on Street View, this is a little bit. I mean, it depends like what you're looking for, right? Because like,
Same Durham region?
because the reason I mention this is, for example, I have a lot of clients, they have clients looking for spaces to open badminton clubs.
Yeah. Same.
Mhm.
Same.
So that's what you're doing?
Same,
So that's,
26 feet, like high.
25 feet, yeah.
Yeah, so-
26 feet, yeah.
that's not a sports entertainment facility. That's just an industrial facility with a really high clear height, right? So essentially what they do is they just look for industrial listings with high clear height, and then they look for those spaces, and
Yeah.
industrial is becoming really expensive. So that's why like all these badminton clubs are struggling. Okay. So yeah, so I mean, if you look at the sports ones, these are more so like baseball fields, hockey arenas, like these are the space, the sports entertainment, like badminton, just industrial.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
You wanna share the fee structure to get a login, or is only for the brokerage side, or individual agents can join?
So individual agents can join, but there's definitely beneficial terms when the brokerage does as a whole. So that's something I'll speak to the managers about later on, and then I'll speak to the pricing option. Like we can maybe set up a separate meeting, something like that, just to go over it. Yeah, and they're not here. They've done this before. So.
yeah.
So yeah, so we'll talk about that, and then but essentially how it works is that we're on a membership basis. So if you choose to be a member, you have access to the whole system. So like all this unlimited searches, all the geography, like you do a deal in the US, you have US information. You do a deal in UK, you have UK information, right? Unlimited access to our research team, like all of this, everything I showed is included in one membership. And then if you have your membership, that means you have your username, your login information, you can use as much as you want. And the cost is going to be depending on like if you do it yourself, if you could do it through the brokerage and so on.
How much is it for just the one membership?
So a single, well, I think this it depends on the
One user, let's say one user.
I was gonna say it's actually depending on the brokerage itself. So I believe, as far as I know, this brokerage qualifies for individual licenses because some brokerages do not. So for example, Avis and Young is one of my clients, right? And for Avis and Young, every single person that works there needs to have a CoStar license. And it's mandatory, it's not optional. But for here, I believe like it's optional in the sense like the people that want it can get it, the people that don't want it don't necessarily need to get it. So that's the benefit of having a Remax location versus like an Avis or like a CB, right? So for individual license, if you're signing up yourself under your own name, the cost is $7,500 per year. And that is tax exempt.
2,500?
Question.
Yes.
In RAM itself.
Sorry, what?
We have a resource called TREB, right?
Yes.
In TREB, we have one service which is how do you compare with that Alta Data Studio, which gives some audience the commercial sales listings and sales information.
Mhm.
So how do you compare your website with the Alta Data Studio? They have two versions. One is paid version and one is unpaid version. We
Right.
have access to the unpaid versions
Right.
where we do get lots of information
Yes.
for commercial, residential, even the residential new construction. So how
Right.
you would be comparing your resource to the Alta Data Studio?
Yeah, so I'm not too familiar with their unpaid version, but I am familiar with their paid version. So first is actually like, I mean, Altus, the number one difference that we focus on commercial real estate, we don't do residential. So let's say, it's a residential development, how much is the single family home sold for, like, we don't do that type of research. What we have is that if you look at, what I showed in terms of the, like the standing inventory, so like all the pins on the map, all the information, like who owns them, that information, Altus doesn't track. The second part is that they don't do like, leasing related stuff really. So, we're the ones that have a more commercial specific focus of information. And our information is like the standing inventories, the true ownership information. These are things that we have that they don't have. Now, in terms of the sales stuff that you were talking about, like, that's gonna be pretty similar, right? Yeah, so the listings, well, depending, like, that should be pretty similar, but like in terms of like, who owns this building after you see the listing, or like if this building doesn't have a listing, they wouldn't have that information at all. Like, for example, if we're looking for the piece of land, or we're looking for like a apartment building to invest in, it's not listed, then Altus will have no information on that building whatsoever, and we would. And then,
Paid version also, we don't have the information.
no,
So maybe that is the difference between Costar and the MLS. MLS, whatever you have listed, it will show up.
correct.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
Costar side, maybe you will have unlisted properties information.
Yes, I mean, like,
You have a chance to get more data and get the listing also.
correct.
Yeah.
So listing is definitely a part of Costar, and it's a very useful part, but I will never suggest anybody to buy Costar just for the listings.
Yeah.
Right? It's the rest of the platform that makes it so powerful. And we also, the access to the research team, like I mentioned before, that's something that we provide that Altus do not provide. And same with the training. It's like, I'll be back here like monthly if necessary, like maybe on the Tuesday mornings, right? So, like, we provide unlimited trainings. Altus just kind of gives you a platform and just kind of hopes you know how to use it.
Let's say if I'm putting on listing on the Costar, right?
Yep.
How often you check the maintenance? Like, I don't want to see the, like, let's say, index. I'm just saying, for example, I put it on Costar, and I forgot to remove it.
Oh, right. So that's what I mean. Like, our research team calls every broker or every agent monthly to see, hey, is your listing still like available or still available? Like, did anything change? Like, did the price change? Like, is the space still the same? Things like that. We call every month to confirm. Now you have to give us that information though. Like, you have to answer the call.
Some others, they forget to remove, like we always say, there's a whole listing there, like.
Oh yeah. So our research team calls every month to confirm if the listing is still up to date. And let's say we can't get a confirmation because we can't reach the broker. Sometimes like people leave for like 6 months to go somewhere, like, and they just kind of disappear. There is a time limit, and I want to say is, I don't remember the exact, but it's like 3 months or 4 months or whatever. Like, if we can't get an update in that many months, it goes down. Right? And something else I actually forgot to mention, this is very useful, is that the listings on Costar, that's a free service. So that means that you don't need to be a Costar member to have your listings on Costar. So let's say if anybody here have listings, you can, does anybody have listings right now? Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. So if you have listings, you can actually reach out to our research team to have them add your listings to the CoStar platform free of charge. So this, well, it doesn't give you access to the CoStar information, but it does give thousands of people that who do use CoStar, they'll see your listings. Yeah, I mean, the really good thing about CoStar listings is that, and this is why some of my clients who's like, they specialize in commercial, like at a commercial brokerage, they will list on CoStar but not MLS, is because anybody that can see a listing on CoStar, they're serious about commercial real estate. And it's not some random guy that was like clicking around, went on realtor.ca and then found it and then called you, right? So you'll get like, you know, like 100 views instead of 1,000 views, but that's going to be 100 brokers that have done deals in commercial real estate before. Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Thank you
Well,
so much for coming.
Yeah.